Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another Casual Sundays, the show, oh, not really, but let's pretend it's a show, where we have a discussion, not necessarily a tutorial or an update. And PS, do you see this temperature? 24 degrees. It's awesome, finally. We will discuss about what works for us and why something works for us in regards to orchids, why we grow orchids in a certain way, because I feel there's a little bit more to it than what we generally talk about. I think we've already established that different people have different environments, so we need to adapt our style of growth to our environment. Temperature, humidity, light quantity and things of the sorts dictate pretty much how we're gonna grow the orchids, how we're gonna adapt certain systems or setups of growing orchids. Basically, there isn't only one way of growing them as long as you offer what they need, which is water, air, nutrients, and the whole percentage and balance between them. So we pretty much are acquainted with this idea, and I think everybody talks about it, and at least if you look at all of us here on YouTube, you can see so many differences. But that's something we already know. We're kind of already acquainted with this idea. I feel there's more to the idea of I grow my orchids like this and it works for me, so don't judge me. It goes a little bit beyond environment, nutrients, water, and all of these things actually. But enough philosophy, let's get to the facts, right? Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna take my example, which is maybe not the most obvious one, but it's the one that I have most experience with. So let's say I am growing my orchids, or some of them, in semi-hydroponic systems. Nothing spectacular here, a lot of people do it. What I do that other people might not do is place my orchid pots on this sort of humidity tray or drainage tray and water them on the shelves. I don't go with them to the sink or above a bucket and something of the sorts. I do try to give a flush like the system is supposed to work, but definitely it's not an aggressive flush. So that's something different. And at this point, I can totally say it works for me, so I don't really care what other people are doing. Well, there's more to that. Why do I do this? Well, you might say I'm lazy. That's partially true, but not really. I'm not necessarily a lazy person. I have a seriously bad back, and I've always ranted about it. My back hates me. If it could, it would detach and just go into the world. Can I fix my back? Not really. It's a thing with the spine. It's not supposed to be like it is. So what can I do? Not put certain types of stress on my back. And the thing with leaning and carrying and staying and walking too much kind of puts stress on my back, and it's something I don't want to go through because pains are not pretty. For this reason, I have always kind of tried to make my work easier and to not go to the sink all that much. Yes, I still carry some buckets, I still carry water. This hobby implies a degree of physical work, yes, but if I can make it a little easier for me and my back, I will. Does everybody have back pains? No, obviously not. Is this an easy method to water orchids? It obviously is, no matter if you have back pains. Is it optimal? Well, I'm not yet sure. Because here's what happens. With me watering them like this, offering a mild flush, I might actually not perform a super correct watering technique. I might not flush the pots correctly. This can lead to a buildup. Of course, I don't intend to let this buildup accumulate. If I see things are not going well, yes, of course, once a month or every once in a while, I will do a proper flush, which means at the sink or above a bucket, I will do something of the sorts. I'm okay with that. It beats doing it every time I water. But can you say it's 100% optimal what I'm doing? I'm not sure if it is. I'm still experimenting. So by saying this works for me, I am implying it works for my back, but I'm also implying it might not be the most ideal or functional or most adequate thing to do to an orchid. But should you do it? Well, here's what you need to think for yourself. Well, the fact that you're putting extra effort into watering orchids by going to the sink or carrying buckets, will it affect you that much as to say, I don't want to do this, I should not do this, or not? Because maybe this is something you can cut from a routine when you're looking for inspiration. So this was just one example, but reasons for somebody doing something can be infinite. For example, I don't have enough money to buy bark, or I don't want to chop down trees, or I have an allergy to sphagnum moss, or I absolutely hate the leca pebbles, or I don't want to grow my orchids in something that looks like it came from Star Trek. I want something natural, or I really do like mounted orchids and I have absolutely no issue in watering them every single day because I live in an apartment, or and so on and so forth. So When you see somebody doing something, yes, first and foremost, it kind of needs to be adapted to their environment. And this is something you should always keep in the back of your mind as well. This is my environment. How can I make my life a little easier, therefore not put my orchids under risks? Yes, you can water every day, but what if something spectacular happens one day, you miss watering, and because you live in a very hot or very dry environment, the orchids will suffer? Is just an example. So the process of evaluating the risk and what's the best setup for you in your environment, that should be the first thing pretty much all of us should think about, and we kind of do. But on top of all of these changes that we need to make due to our environments, we kind of need to make changes due to our lifestyle or different things that simply apply only to us, such as a bad back or having very little time for orchids, having certain parts of the day free versus others, and so on. These are personal things that will only apply to individual people. It's something that it's impossible to mention all the times, but it reflects in how we grow our orchids. So one side of the discussion is, yes, get inspiration and see what works, how it works, see what setups give the best ratios or are prone to work better in your environment or stuff of the sorts, but afterwards it's perfectly fine to continue to customize it in accordance to your personal style or personal life. Also, keep in mind that all of these adjustments might reflect in the orchid's behavior. We all want our orchids to perform the best they can, but sometimes cutting some, let's say, quality stuff can save us from risking more important things. For example, I love my orchids, but my back is priority, you know? So anyway, that's one side of the discussion. The other side of the discussion is actually admitting that you're cutting some corners because of your personal things and actually realizing them and working with cutting those corners and making things a little better. Now, cutting corners can refer to a lot of things. It can go into fertilizing, it can go into light. Yes, we don't all have the perfect conditions, therefore we need to cheat a little bit. We don't have a southern exposure in our house, it's okay, we're gonna buy some artificial light and grow our orchids under light. But at the same time, we need to be well aware that some orchids will not grow all that well under artificial light. So there's nothing wrong in cutting corners, but be well aware of what quality stuff you're cutting with cutting those corners as well. I was telling you that my orchids might not be fleshed correctly. That's a real possibility, and it's one that I'm currently working on. And admitting to yourself there might be issues in the future is nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to work on and improve on, and maybe even eliminating. And this has nothing to do with right or wrong or with how to grow orchids. It simply has to do with improving and adapting and customizing things to fit yourself. Now I feel that this part of the story is pretty much let's say the most controversial thing with growing orchids, because it is part of seeing the whole picture, and it's just such a complicated picture that sometimes we don't see it and we get all defensive and stuff. When somebody says, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, oh, why shouldn't it? Because it works for me. Yeah, but at the same time, even if it works for you, it doesn't mean it's optimal. But at the same time, you need to make peace with the idea that how you're growing your orchids might not be ideal and might have certain repercussions. Because once you do that, you start to work on the repercussions. When you shield yourself against the knowledge, against how proper things should be done, just because you cannot offer those proper things, it's kind of when you stop learning. And I went through this, sadly, but fortunately I got over it. You need to accept the fact that, hey, this is not ideal. So once you realized what the not so ideal things in your setup are, you can start working on them. So anyway, bottom line is we all get inspiration from other people. I do get inspiration from other people as well, but not everything will work and not everything will resonate with our capabilities. I love the looks of clay pots, but not in my greenhouse. I love how they look like in Pinterest pictures or with other growers, but I went through the experience and oh my goodness, not only was it not okay in the medium that I was growing and in my environment and with the quality pots that I got, but I had to put in a lot of efforts with the clay pots. If you remember last winter, I had all sorts of moldy deposits, whatever I had on them, algae and so on. That meant I had to clean them. That meant going with each heavy pot to the sink and trying to wash them. You know what that meant? A very bad time for my back. Did it work for me? No, absolutely not. Does it mean clay pots are evil? No, absolutely not. It just means they were not in accordance with my possibilities, capabilities, and a particular issue that I have and not many other people have. It's absolutely fine to grow orchids in any way you want, as long as you do realize and accept that everything has cons. They will have pros, and the pros can vary from person to person. Maybe the fact that an orchid is in a pot is a major pro for you because of where you live, or other things. That's okay, but there are always cons to whatever setup you're gonna choose. And accepting the cons kind of gives you a little door into perfecting and trying to minimize them, at least to some degree. And when you cannot improve something, well, that's the limitation of that setup. You need to accept it and be well aware of it. And if you want more, you can always experiment. So the bottom line is, yes, there are so many ways in which you can grow orchids. Some are more limiting than others, some are more ideal than others. Others just simply go with the grower a lot more. And when you draw inspiration from all of these setups, you kind of need to know the pros and cons. When you see something, try to analyze a little bit all the system. Think about the air, the water, the nutrients, how everything works, how the orchid would work in this system, see the downsides and the upsides, and then put everything into your world. If a certain setup presents advantages that are really, really good for you, then that's great. But if it doesn't and the shortcomings are simply not worth it, obviously you can improve on the system or use a different system. And that is not something to be stressed about. That's actually the fun of the hobby, in my opinion. Yes, it's a little stressful to go through so many, let's say, inadequate things that I went through. It's also absolutely fine to have some failures. We all have to go through them in order to really understand some stuff. It is a fabulous idea to test out things that appeal to you, but it is a great idea not to waste time on testing things that from the get-go don't appeal to you, or they will put some strain in particular aspects of your life. Totally fine. And I think with this idea, it is time to end the video because I need to finish my coffee. So thank you guys so much for watching. I wish you all a chill Sunday. And you know the drill, if you've enjoyed this discussion, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchids videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. If you have topics to suggest, leave me a comment down below. And next Sunday, we're gonna discuss on that. So I'll see you all next time. Bye. So some of you might already be aware with the whole controversy with the adaptation of Death Note by Netflix. Pretty much everybody says it kind of sucks. Now I have to tell you, I never saw the anime or read the manga. I heard about it. I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna start watching the anime right now. 1 or 2 episodes before I go to bed. And I have to tell you guys, oh my goodness, it's so good. So Death Note, I'm not sure if it's an animation made for kids, although Japanese do have a tendency to not shelter kids from many things. I've watched animes as a kid, and even the ones intended for kids, no, they did not shelter you from the bad stuff. And that's something I kind of appreciated as a kid. Death Note is not a violent anime, it's just really kind of smart and complicated. It still maintains that humor and vibe of the anime, but the underlayer is a really, really good one. They go from the god complex to detective work, to the supernatural, to the mythical, it's such a complex anime. I absolutely love it. If you've never watched it but you're a fan of the Japanese style, you absolutely should watch it. I cannot get enough of it. Too bad it's so short. And judging by the trailer that I saw for the Netflix adaptation, no, I don't want to watch that movie. I absolutely don't, because I'm pretty sure it will spoil the animation. So I fully recommend it if you're a fan of the style. If you've already watched it, let me know what you thought of it down below. Let's talk about it, because I'm pretty excited about it. And also, if you know other animes in the style, recommend me some. My favorite one so far, I have to say, it's Full Metal Alchemist. But anyway, yeah, let me know your ideas. What should I watch next? Because I'm in an anime mood until the new season of Stranger Things comes out.